Hi everyone,
Dogs and Fart Tano.
here internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Turnstile album, Time and Space. This is the Baltimore band's sophomore album, their first for ROADRUNNER Records, which is pretty exciting. It's awesome to see the metal community embracing what this band has to offer, especially since in a lot of ways I feel like this album is an improvement on their last record, and in just about 25 minutes too. On this new album, Turnstile is sticking pretty closely to their tried and true, very old school, bombastic, over-the-top East Coast hardcore sound with the shouted vocals and the guitar riffs that make you want to jump the fuck up and stage dive into a crowd of people and mosh until basically your limbs disintegrate. Overall, the band's music is coming off way more versatile and catchy this time around. They're getting more wild in the studio with effects, infusing more melody and harmony very subtly into these hardcore ragers, mostly via some sung vocals and some background harmonies. Also, you have surprising instrumental additions occasionally, like the very peppy keyboards on the song High Pressure, which I love. And occasionally on this thing, it seems like there are like these very subtle nods to 90s and 2000s alt metal and radio rock. Again, very slight, very subtle, typically executed pretty tastefully. And it's nice to see these additions, it's nice to see these risks on this new Turnstile record, because truth be told, even though the band played with a lot of guts on their last album, it still sounded pretty meat and potatoes. This time around, it really seems like they're doing everything they can to build their sound out so it has just a little bit more musical depth to it. My issue, though, and I do have an issue, of course I have an issue, is that not every attempt of that goes over well, and even with Turnstile trying to experiment in the way that they are on this album, they're still one of the blander bands in this genre. I don't really find them to have that distinct of a sound, and I'm just having a difficult time committing this album to memory, despite the fact that it really should be infectious as hell. I mean, I definitely give the band points for the killer performances on this album. There are few groups out there playing this genre of hardcore with the gusto that Turnstile does. I mean, I just break a sweat listening to this album. But still, there are tracks on this thing like Big Smile which fail to leave an impression on me in any way, shape, or form outside of the finishing refrain of the song. Meanwhile, there are tracks on this thing leaving a mark on me for the wrong reasons, like the song Moon, which to me feels like what would happen if you forced the lead singer of the Bare Naked Ladies to croon his way through a bunch of speedy, spiraling hardcore riffs. Still, though, the first leg of this album is relatively solid. Real Thing is a killer opener. That Real Thing hook on this track just reminds me of everything that was great about metal and hardcore 10 to 15 years ago. The song Generator is a bit heavier and catchier, has this massive Juggernaut-style Cro-Magnon guitar riffing. The start of the track is enhanced with these haunting vocal harmonies. Meanwhile, there's another portion of the track that features these really cheeky I Don't Want to Be Blind is another moment where these smoother, more melodic vocals kind of pop in after a thunderous riff and elevate the track a little bit more. High Pressure I already mentioned. I love those keyboards. It really makes the track pop out in the track listing. But around the midpoint of this album, even though it is very short, I feel like the record loses steam, runs out of ideas a little bit, or these very minor applications of some background vocals just kind of lose their flavor, don't really continue to add that much to this band's brand of hardcore, like the track Lost, Another Piece of My Mind, which to me just seems like a very average piece of crossover thrash. Like, it's gonna take more than some atmospheric vocals to bring any personality to this song. Same thing with the closing track too. I mean, I can appreciate the band is trying to make their tracks a little catchier without dumbing it down and basically turning hardcore music into pop, which so many bands of the 2000s did in a really disgusting way. I can tell they're trying their best not to step over that line, even though you do have vocals like on the song Right to Be, which come off way too sugary. Not to mention that at this point on the album, the band's riff style is starting to run just a little tedious. Again, props for trying to work outside of your comfort zone, but unfortunately this album does not maintain my interest for the very short runtime that it lasts. It's kind of one-dimensional. It doesn't really stick out in the style of hardcore that the band performs within. It's kind of unfortunate that my feelings on this album have waned a bit because my initial listens of it were pretty positive because I was whipped up in the energy of the band's performances. But as I kept listening again and again and again, it became sort of apparent just how run-of-the-mill a lot of the compositions and sounds on this album are. And that a lot of these additional vocals, they're kind of window dressing. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave an angry comment in the comments if you're feeling angry, or a thoughtful comment in the comment if you're feeling full of thoughts. Over here next to my head, another review you can check out. Hit that upworthy link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Turnstile Forever.